In the late 1400s, a knight riding into battle wasn't just a man on a horse. He was a mobile weapons platform worth more than most people would earn in a lifetime. In this video, we break down the complete battle loadout of a 15th century European knight. This is exactly what a knight carried into medieval warfare. The arming doublet. Before a single piece of steel touched his body, the knight put on this fitted, quilted jacket. Cut shorter than civilian fashion, it featured dozens of woven cord laces called arming points, each tipped with metal aglets. Every piece of plate armor attached directly to these laces. Without this garment, the armor had nothing to hold onto. Mail voiders. Chainmail hadn't disappeared by the 15th century. It just moved to the gaps. These patches of interlocking steel rings were sewn directly into the arming doublet, protecting the armpits and inner elbows where solid plate couldn't flex. Each ring passed through 4 others in the classic European 4-in-1 weave. The arming cap. 3 layers of quilted padding, roughly an inch thick. This simple cap protected the skull from the helmet's interior. Without it, every blow to the head would ring the knight's skull like a bell inside a steel dome. Sabatons. Arming started at the feet. These articulated steel shoes were built in layers so they could flex and bend with the foot. German Gothic Sabatons had absurdly long, pointed tips, following civilian fashion. Knights actually removed these points when they dismounted because walking in them was nearly impossible. Greaves. Steel tubes protecting the lower leg, front and back. The hard exterior deflected blows while inner padding absorbed impact. Simple, effective, essential. Poleyns. The knee cops. Gothic versions featured pointed shapes and reinforcing ribs that increased rigidity while channeling blows away from the joint. These appeared around 1230 and remained in use for over 400 years. Cuisses. Thigh protection made of tempered steel shaped closely to the leg's contours. English versions wrapped around the entire leg. Continental European versions only covered the front, leaving the back to the saddle. The craftsmen who specialized in making these were called Cuisses. The Cuirass, the knight's core protection. Breastplate and backplate hinged together on the left side, heaved up and folded around the body, then strapped closed on the right. The globular breastplate was shaped convex to deflect blows rather than catch them. The lance rest. This small bracket projecting from the right side of the breastplate looks insignificant, but it was crucial. When the knight couched his lance, this rest held the weapon firmly and transferred the combined weight and speed of horse and rider directly into the lance point. Without it, the impact would have ripped the lance from his hands or shattered his shoulder. Faulds and Tassets. Hanging from the cuirass like a steel skirt, the folds were laminated strips arranged specifically not to hinder horseback riding. The tassets hung below, protecting the upper thighs and groin. Gothic versions ended in sharp points. Pauldrons. These massive shoulder plates extended over the armpits and wrapped around parts of the back and chest. Italian armors featured asymmetrical pauldrons with the left side larger and heavier, since that was the shield side. German armors preferred lighter, symmetrical designs. Vambraces and Rerebraces. Upper and lower arm protection. The Rerebrace covered the bicep with 2 tubular plates forming a rotating collar. The Vambrace protected the forearm. Between them sat the cauter, or elbow cop, with large protective wings wrapping halfway around the inner elbow. Gauntlets. 2 main types existed. Hourglass gauntlets featured individual finger plates. Mitten gauntlets covered all 4 fingers with 1 large steel plate, providing better protection against crushing blows. Some featured a pinlock. When the knight gripped his sword, the mitten locked in place, making disarmament nearly impossible. The Gorget, neck protection reaching full development by 1500. This collar of articulated steel plates covered the throat, nape, shoulders, and upper chest. Worn under the cuirass, it served as the anchor point where pauldrons attached via projecting pins. The Armet, the iconic, fully enclosed helmet. 4 pieces, skull dome, 2 hinged cheek pieces that opened laterally, and a double pivoted visor. First appearing in Milan around 1420, it was the first helmet to completely enclose the head while remaining compact enough to move with the wearer. Weight 6 to 8 pounds. The Sallet, the German alternative. Featuring a pronounced ridge down the center and a long rear tail extending to mid-back, German Sallets often had a movable half visor over the eye slits. Unlike the Armet, the Sallet required a separate bevor, a scoop-shaped plate protecting the lower face and throat. The Longsword, measuring around 4 feet overall with a 3-foot blade, it weighed approximately 3 pounds. Against plate armor, standard cutting was useless. Knights used half-swording, placing one gloved hand on the blade for precise thrusts at armor gaps. Or the Mordau, the murder stroke, flipping the sword entirely to use the pommel as a hammer against helmeted opponents. The Poleaxe. One Italian master called it ponderous, cruel, and mortal. 5 to 8 pounds of axe blade, hammer face, and top spike on a 6-foot shaft. Metal strips called langets ran down the handle to prevent enemies from cutting through the wood. Both ends were weapons. The war lance, 8 to 10 feet of ash wood tipped with steel. The circular, vamplate guard protected the hand, while the grappa fitting locked into the lance rest on the breastplate. This transferred the impact through the rider's entire body. A charging knight didn't throw a lance, he became a guided missile. The warhammer, a direct response to plate armor. The hammer face was often divided into diamond-shaped points to prevent sliding on curved surfaces. The rear spike, called the crow's beak, could punch through weaker armor areas. This weapon gave us the surname Martel. The Rondel Dagger, also called the Misericorde, meaning mercy, because it delivered death blows to fallen knights. Circular disc guards at both ends of the grip, a long, narrow blade tapering to a needle point. Purpose: puncturing mail links and penetrating armor gaps at armpits, groin, and visor slits. The Destrier. The warhorse stood 14 to 16 hands, primarily stallions valued for natural aggression. These horses were trained to bite and kick enemies. A Destrier cost 7 to 8 times an ordinary horse, but comprised less than 5% of actual war horses in army musters. Most knights preferred coursers, faster and lighter horses with better endurance. The Chanfron. Horsehead armor protecting from ears to muzzle with hinged cheek plates. Many featured a decorative spike between the eyes that was entirely functional. The Crinet. Segmented plates protecting the horse's neck, articulated on loose rivets to allow movement. The war saddle, high pommel protecting the abdomen, high cantle wrapping around to prevent the rider from being thrown backward, deep seat locking the knight in place during charges. The pommel doubled as a secondary lance rest. Personal items, crucifixes, rosary beads, small books of psalms, patron saint medallions, a seal ring for authenticating documents, bandages, wine for wound cleaning, needle and thread. The surcoat or tabard displaying heraldic devices so allies could identify a knight whose face was hidden behind steel. A complete harness weighed 45 to 55 pounds, distributed across the entire body, less than a modern soldier's fighting load. A knight could climb ladders using only his hands, vault onto horses without touching the saddle, and turn cartwheels in full armor. The myth that knights needed cranes to mount their horses? Victorian satire from an 1843 joke magazine. This wasn't clumsy protection. This was the most sophisticated personal armor system ever developed, an integrated weapons platform that dominated European battlefields until firearms finally caught up 3 centuries later.